Okay, my outstanding friends, Donald Trump wants to undo the Department of Education, which at this point has become a department of indoctrination. They don't allow discussion about topics that are not accepted and not well received. And I will show you that amounts to fraud. And that's what we have right now for education. Okay, my friends, you know that I have had no success with any political people, any people in authority, any teachers, any academics. Zero success with any of them. Is Donald Trump really interested in truth? It looks like he's the only one that can possibly help. And I've been posting everywhere I can, and I want you to do this as well. I am going to be just continuously saying, what are you going to do about this, Mr. President? What are you going to do about this, Mr. President? So forth. And I want to see, what will he do? Is he just another one that doesn't care about the truth? Can he handle the truth? How strong is Donald Trump? Can he stand up to academia? Okay, so what is academic fraud? Well, it involves a deliberate effort to deceive and includes plagiarism, stealing somebody else's work, fabrication of data, misrepresentation of historical sources, tampering with evidence, selective suppression, listen to this very carefully, selective suppression of unwanted or unacceptable results, and theft of ideas. Selective suppression of unwanted, unacceptable results, and theft of ideas. Some cases of academic fraud are easy to detect and prove. Let me show you what happened to me. Okay, this is my situation. I discovered gigantic human fossils. I was blown away. I couldn't hardly believe it, but I just kept looking and looking. That is the fingernail of this gigantic fingertip. That is the bone pad that sits between bones so they don't scrape each other. Vein and artery, fingernail. That's the fingernail. Very well taken care of, too. I smacked this over here so I could get down inside to where the blood was, because it was just a rock. But I knew there was blood inside because they're saturated with blood, the fingertips. Because I had already found some other ones, but this one was just blew me away. So, bam, I knocked that piece off, and it has the fingerprints on it. All right, it doesn't get any more outrageous than this. This is the piece that I broke off of that gigantic fingertip. It's three feet long. The fingertip itself. Now, I found this, when I cracked it, it just popped off. This is the piece right here. And it just popped off like it was glued on there. It didn't break and shatter, it just popped off like a scab. And this right here is where the fingernail was. Whoops. The fingernail rocked right in there and way out this way, way back over this way. I mean, it was just gigantic. And these are the fingerprints. Now, what are we looking at? Those are the sweat pores. And these are the ridges. And they're right next to the fingernail, just on the same as on you. And just like this. All right, so this is the same piece. And these are the sweat pores. And it was glued on just like that. It was literally glued on there. And underneath is saturated, literally saturated with blood. The quality was excellent. The DNA was, well, it freaked me out. I said, this can't be. It's got to be a statue or something. Or I don't know what it is. But how could this detail be like this? So I figured, well, I'll get it DNA tested, because I found other stuff too. I had 2 other ones tested at the same time. I had 3 of them tested. And they all were human DNA. And I can see it was once I got inside, it was just saturated with blood. All right, so don't forget. Now, that's the fingertip, 3 feet long. That is the fingerprints. And we're going to be looking at these in the microscope, because I got a couple of spots I've broken open a little further, and we can see the cross cut of the skin and the outer layer, and then where it scabs up. It's just like a scab. It's just exactly like that. And it's hard. And that's what the grip skin is 50 times more silicone. This was a lung, also DNA tested. Now, this was in the Great Flood. Again, this is all biblical stuff. Giants, Great Flood. The reason it's flat like that is because it was boiled out of a creature's body during the Great Flood when we were almost impacted by Venus. This is a historical source. Velikovsky recorded this all over the world. They had the same story. All over the world. And all the giants were drowned. It was exactly like what it says in the Bible. Exactly. DNA tested, and it was CAT scan too. And I'm going to show you this in a microscope. And any doctor, any anatomist, and anybody that can even look at a book to see what a lung looks like, that's it. And that's where the heart would have been pressed against, like right here. It's a left human lung, and it is human, and it was DNA tested. And you'll see the actual blood in here. And I'll show you, there's a tiny little taste of blood I think I can show you in here in the microscope. Now, I showed you the 3-foot long fingertip and then the lung. This is what happens when you break off the skin and you get down underneath. You're just saturated with blood. The fingertips are just saturated with blood. And that's all it was covering. This is the skin. And it's called grip skin. But let me show you. I have another hand that I also had DNA tested, and it was human. And it's about between 3 and 4 feet wide. Now, I showed you this grip skin that is just peeled right off of that gigantic finger. This one here is quite a bit smaller, but it's still pretty good size. That's about, I can't remember, I think it was between 3 and 4 feet wide. And you see how this gray looking stuff is peeling off? That's the grip skin. It's on your hand. It's made like a glove. And then this is the pad that is on your, this is a left hand. If you take your hand, lay it way back like this, you have that cleave right there. Pad goes this way, your little finger goes off that way. There's a tendon that runs right down, that's it. There'll be a little hollow in there between where the tendon is and so forth. And then the thumb runs off that way. This is all silver stuff is starting to peel off because it's just like slathered on top, just the way this was. It's peeling right away. It's not like chunks of it coming off. It's just like your skin peeling off because it's exactly the same thing. Now this was DNA tested as well, and CAT scanned the fingers. I have fingers and knuckles and stuff from this, and the fingers were CAT scanned, and you can't see a whole lot. Well, yes you can. Let me show you something. Now this is one of the fingertips from that hand, and some of the CAT scans you can actually see the fingernail bed and so forth, but normally you look at that and you really can't see a whole lot. Now there is something going on there, but let's see what it looks like in the CAT scan. This is the 3D where they go deep inside, and what you can see is this round thing going on here at that very edge. And that is a bone. That's the membrane that surrounds the bone. The key is the membranes have a certain different, just a little tad difference. Because this is nucleophilic substitution. It's where the invading molecules really replace. It's called substitution. It's a nucleophilic invasion and substitution. So the new stuff comes in and the old stuff goes. And it's replaced by these electrophiles that come in and take over. So this is not much you can see in the 3D, but wait till you see this other thing. This was by Jesse Garant and Associates. Absolutely the most fabulous people you could ever work with in your life. They did 7 CAT scans for me. 3D, 2D, the whole 9 yards, and this goes back to 2014, 2015, somewhere, right in that area. And they did them for free. All I had to do was get them there and pay to get them back, and they did all this for free. Now, let me show you the 2D, because that's fabulous. And these guys work for some of the top companies in the world. They got 2 places. All right, now this is the best for mud fossils, is the 2D, because otherwise it's replaced already, so you don't see a whole lot of differentiation. But when you look at this fingertip right here, you see it right here? You see that? That's the same here. We're looking at it right there. Well, you don't see much. You see just a big chunk of mud looking stuff. But that's underneath of the hand, the fingertip, and that's where what they call apical tuft. And if you can see that little tiny things coming off, that round, you may be able to see this round piece right here. That's an apical tuft. And I have another one here that's eroded down to where it's completely gone, but that's where that would be. And these little balls fit into all these little holes and have straps running all the back. And that's what secures your fingertip. I can see that very easily, actually. I don't know if you can or not. But that's that circle right there. Now, this, again, is the fingertip. And again, you don't see much. But look at this one. The 2D, you can see where the fingernail bed was. You see it? It's right there. Now, the other one, the 2D of the back of this, is really good. And I can tell you what, this is a right hand thumb. You say, Roger, how could you possibly know that? Well, I'll show you why. This is a right hand thumb. And here's how I know that. Hold on. This is kind of funny. Because when I looked at this, I was trying to figure this out. Why is the bone way over here? I could see the tendons here. There's one right there. And there's one right there. You see the black one and the white one? Why is it with 2 different colors? Well, there's a vein and an artery. And they have totally different colors. This is the bone. And what it is a right hand thumb. And I can basically prove that. You take your right hand and you pinch the bone is right here, way down here. The bone is over here. And then you have this lump hanging off the side. But that's only on your thumbs. You see, the thumb comes down and you have that lump on the side, and the other one is this way. So if it was a left-hand thumb, the bone would be on this side and there'd be a lump over here. So this is a right-hand thumb. And the bone is there and the tendons are here. And if you see the blood vessels, that's the hole right there. That's the blood vessel. Right there. This is the cord of the tendon. That's the blood vessel. This also is the blood vessel right here. And again, that's the cord. So the 2D is fabulous. And they did just such fabulous work on it. And Jesse and Fabio, I thank you very, 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 excellent contribution to this. And I'm indebted to you, my friends. Just so you know who they are, this is Jesse Garant and Associates, and they do really, really, really top-end stuff. CAT scanning, X-ray sorting services, 2D and 3D. They do all of these different, and top companies in the world. Top companies in the world. So this is no puppy outfit, and they were so nice, and they were interested, and I found that almost nowhere else. So I was very, very impressed. All right, and again, thank you, Jesse, thank you, Fabio, deeply appreciated. Okay, so what is the issue here? The issue is that they will not allow this to be seen. I have the CAT scans, I have the DNA, I have the specimens, I have all of that done 10 years ago, refused to engage, and still to this very day. Not a single academic will discuss this with me, none, zero. And I'm talking about, and I presented all this to Yale back in 2015. And they rejected any discussion whatsoever about it, other than that, all I had was rocks. That was the last I got from Yale. All those are was rocks. And then a year later, they published their paper, basically saying the same thing I said, which I presented to them. So is that fraud and plagiarism? Well, all of that stuff seems to be what it says here for academic fraud. Misrepresentation of historical sources. I don't know if that applies. Tampering with evidence. They made it sound like it was sand and not mud. So maybe that's applied. Selective suppression. Yes, 100% of unwanted, unacceptable results. Theft of ideas. Absolutely. So you take it for whatever you think. It seems to me that I have been defrauded, but I guess that would be for a court of law to decide. This is Yale's paper, 2016, a year after I presented all of, basically exactly the same thing they said. Worldwide flood, very rapid water, and heavy silicates, and salt waters, and rapid flooding. And they were preserved in days, or could in a couple of years rather than thousands of years. Species that don't really exist anymore today. They're crazy looking things. It's exactly what I told them. But they say, oh no, it was sand that preserved them, and it was only jellyfish looking things. No, they were completely substituted, like this bone. All right, they would say, oh no, that was jelly at one time. That's the only reason it would turn into mud like this stone. Well, there's a little tiny piece of bone still left in there, and I have a lot of them that still have some bone. But it doesn't matter. It's a nucleophilic invasion and substitution, just like that finger I showed you, just like these lungs. This lung here is completely fully dressed. This one here is in the process of disrobing. They're both flat, see it? Flat. This is from being boiled out of the bodies of these creatures. And the other one is, well, hold on. You see this one right here? That's this one. DNA tested, CAT scan, all of that. This one right here is silicon. You see all the little alveoli holes? That's those. The same thing as here. Now, you see the little red spots? Blood came out of that. Blood comes out of all these rocks. No problem whatsoever getting blood out of rocks. No problem whatsoever. Now, again, this one here is completely covered with pleural. This is like a fabric, and it's like a big rubber bag that goes like this all day long. That's what your lung does. So it's very, very tough, and you can see it's tough. You see how thick this is? You see how thick that bag is that holds the lung? This is the lung part inside, and that's the bag part outside. And it's peeled back a little bit. And that was in the flood again, flat. This didn't erode at all. Pleural on both sides, top, bottom, here, there, everywhere. And there's the little flap on the end. They all have that flap. You see, they all have that flap. And this one's still got a bunch of blood in it. If I put water on there, it literally bleeds. The water just makes the red blood just turn back into blood. It rehydrates. And again, I show Caesar all the time, my goose, Caesar Augustus. And there's his little nose hole there, and there's a beak, his eye, his feathers. That's where his, and all of this stuff preserved because of the conditions of the flood, the hot water flood. And he's flat again like this. They all died like that. Virtually all my stuff has a flat side, most of it. So I just showed you things that should be investigated, should be talked about. These are giants. They support some of these ancient texts. Ancient texts were just considered ridiculous since we had the age of enlightenment and the Department of Indoctrination, which is what it is now. If you speak out of that, they'll fire you as a teacher. They'll say, no, you can't say that. You say, why? The evidence is here. It doesn't matter. The evidence has no place in education anymore. None, zero. If you don't repeat what you're told to say, you're out. That's it. And if you bring God in, you're out. I don't care, whatever. You can still say all the stuff we tell you to say, but you're talking about God. That's it. You're done. And that's why we should get rid of this Department of Education. It's so crazy. I can't get through to any of those people. The secretary of the Department of Education, Miguel Cardona, lives the next town over from me. I can't get through to any of these people. I've tried over and over, sent emails and everything I could do, posting here or there, but I am basically disconnected from the world because of the things I've been saying. And even somebody put my name into a chat thing today. And, well, here, hold on. I'll read to you what it said about me. All right, listen to this. This guy typed my name into Chat GPT. It says, Roger Spur, also known as Mudfossil University, is a controversial figure in the alternative science community. He promotes unconventional theories related to geology, claiming that many geological features, not many, all, are fossils, and rock formations are actually petrified remains of ancient living organisms, including giants and mythical creatures, yes, dragons. Spur's main assertion is that rocks, mountains, and landscape are not purely geological formations, but rather the results of catastrophic events in Earth's past. Yes, correct. He believes included the rapid petrification of living organisms on a massive scale, as so does Yale. He uses various examples from geology, mythology, historical accounts, yes, to support his claims, often employing unconventional interpretations of scientific evidence. No, showing the evidence, my evidence is not the same as their evidence. So yes, it's unconventional because I don't go to conventions. I don't participate as a puppet in a convention. Spur's theories are widely rejected by mainstream scientists and geologists. Boy, that's an accurate statement. Who argue his ideas lack empirical evidence. Well, that's just ridiculous. I just showed you the evidence. I have the evidence. They have nothing. They say my stuff lacks empirical evidence, violate fundamental principles of geology, and rely heavily on selective interpretation and pseudo-scientific reasoning. While his work has gained some attention on social media platforms like YouTube, it remains largely fringe within the scientific community. Yes, it does, because they won't even allow it to be seen. As with any fringe or alternative theories, it's essential to approach Spur's claims with skepticism and critical thinking, and to rely on established scientific principles like DNA and CAT scans and specimens and documentation and chemistry and evidence-based research. It was exactly what I have. So it's Spur's claims. You have to approach my claims with skepticism and critical thinking, and to rely on established scientific principles and evidence-based research when evaluating the validity of my assertions. Absolutely. Which I have shown. And it's rejected to be allowed to be seen. So that's not my fault. That is not the error of my ways. It is the error of the other ways. Now, I had another guy put something in somewhere, something like this, and it came back. It says, it said, what would change if Roger Spur was correct? And it came back saying basically 100% of what we believe would change and need all new books and teachers. When he sent me that, I was floored. It's because nothing is right. I mean, absolutely nothing. Not a thing, zero. Truly amazing, and not allowed to be seen. Even like subatomic physics, I have the evidence that's undisputable, not allowed to be seen. Almost 10 years now. All right, even this is a disaster. I presented my evidence to Fermilab 10 years ago, and they claim these are the smallest particles that exist. And I agree 100%. We found them using light. They found them using big balls of matter they smash all to bits. We can accelerate light, we can divide light, we can squirt the light down onto a substrate and collect that white particles as electricity. Not allowed. They won't discuss this with me and told me to stay away from them, Fermilab. And we're paying them to try to figure this out, and they won't figure it out because there's no money figuring things out. Okay, I'm going to leave all that other stuff for more videos. I am going to ask Donald Trump to look into each one of these areas. This is absolutely for certain. You see his nose is splayed out, the flesh is broken away from the cartilage in his nose. Nobody carved this. They said, oh, this is just carved. Oh, that's just iron oxides. I said, well, iron oxides. Well, that's the O2 style blood, and that's the O3 style blood. Blood is nothing but iron oxides. And one of them is the vein, the black, and they call that bone black, this one here. Somebody smashed his head right in here. But there's a serious amount of blood coming out here. Red is the artery style, and black is the used blood. And this, he has a cap on. And this was found by Arlie Caudle in Kentucky, and Jim Burchell down there. We had this CAT scan because Yale refused to look at it unless it was CAT scan. We had a CAT scan at the University of Texas in Austin, and that turned into a nightmare, absolute unbelievable nightmare, and I mean a nightmare. And I actually had calls from police and lawyers to stay away from these people, because I said, I have questions. After they did the CAT scan, it was terrible, absolutely unbelievable. And Jesse Grant did 7 of them for us, which were fabulous. Theirs was terrible. And like I said, it ended up with police and lawyers saying, stand down, don't talk to him again, you're threatening people. I said, I'm not threatening people. All I did was say in an email, I'm not trying to destroy anybody's career or anything. I probably said something like, I'm not trying to hurt anybody or something like that, because they all felt like if they spoke up, they would be hurt. And yes, they would, not by me, but because of their peers. And that's true, there's no question about that. You look up Mary Schweitzer, Mark Armitage, a whole bunch of them, they actually got either fired, well, Mark Armitage ended up suing because he did get fired, I believe, and he got a settlement because they just said, no, get out of here, you can't talk about that stuff around here. Well, what is that? How does that relate to being educational when you can't talk about something? And having the evidence I have after 15 years of not having anybody to discuss it. That's totally wrong, and it is time to change the Department of Education. It's just not right. It's a Department of Indoctrination now. It's a complete menticide system. You do what we tell you to do, or we'll destroy your life. What are you going to do? You're going to stand up and say, oh, no, sir, you're wrong. You should have listened to Roger Spur. He's showing evidence. Who? You mentioned Roger Spur? Oh, you are screwed. And trust me, everybody gets sense to me. He says, every time I mention your name, they block me. And that's true, they do. It's the exact same thing they did to Velikovsky. That's why I wrote the book about him. And it's on Amazon. It's only 99 cents. I just wanted it to be up there so that people, if you wanted to go up there and read it, it's called, well, hold on. It is right here. Mudfossils and Velikovsky and Mines in Collision, 99 cents. And there it is right there. Now, that was from 2015. I wrote this book because I was so upset with Yale and all the rest of them. Absolutely unbelievable. Harvard, all of them. All of them. I took a course at, I forget about it. I don't want to get too deep into this. It was just nonsense. Anyway, and then Yale published their paper about this a year later, which is this one. It's identical, same, basically almost word for word what I said. And this is what they're bragging inside, that these could have been some sort of failed evolutionary experiment, because they don't represent anything basically alive today. They say the big part of the answer involves how they were able to form. Listen to this. The animals themselves were entirely soft-bodied, entirely, before shells, teeth, or bones. That's ridiculous. They had bones, they had shells, they had teeth, but it was all completely substituted because of these extreme conditions, and they know that. And they say it was much richer in dissolved silica than today. Agreed, no question about that. And it transformed the loose sand, no, it was mud, to create them into rock in a matter of hours or years. And I agree with that. Very quick. And they were rapidly buried in underwater storm events in mud, not sand. All right, and this was paid for by NASA. And they get all kind of grants from everywhere. Look, National Science Foundation. That's our money, I think. NASA is our money. Another foundation for this and foundation for that, and a philosophical here and there. It's just nothing but a hunt for cash now. That's what education has become. And you do what they tell you to do, or they'll destroy your life. All right, the only person I can even imagine that could stand up to academia would be Trump. Now, if he starts talking about it, at least people will see this, and then it'll be all exposed into society. He's the most important figure in history right at the moment. He's just known everywhere. He's the guy. And if he says something, it will be heard. And it's time, if he's really serious about reorganizing the Department of Indoctrination, education, then he should be talking. He should be talking to me. And I would love to talk to you, sir. And I hold you in respect. I don't go much for politicians. But if you could change things, I can work with that. All right, Liz, I'm going to leave it at this. We're going to get into the microscope. I'm going to show you all these little things that I've been talking about. The blood and the fingerprints and so forth. And the bone that's in the bone. But all I can say is if Donald Trump will speak about this, and knowing that he wants to reorganize the Department of Education, change things so that it's a truly educational system and we can investigate new things, not just be stuck repeating what we're told to repeat. If he can do that, I will be impressed, because I have found no one that can stand up to education, to the academia, and survive. Nobody. He's probably the only person in the world that can do it. So, President Trump, please stand up. I've heard your words. Let's hear your deeds, or see your deeds, or both.